Hi, I am a farmer, and something we may have been hearing a lot from farmers is we're having a big emergency financially because of the tariffs and the trade war. And something I keep hearing is we were lied to. We didn't think Trump would do this. So, as someone who is a farmer and was a farmer during the Trump 2024 election cycle, in fact, I was running for office as Commissioner of Agriculture in my home state of North Carolina. Let me tell you what the conversation in agriculture was actually like. I can't recall anybody who actually thought Trump wasn't going to start a trade war. What do you mean we were lied to? Everyone knew this was going to happen. Because for one thing, he was running on starting a trade war with China again. And for another, he already did it once. Everybody knew this was going to happen. Everybody in agriculture knew this was going to happen. And as someone who's a farmer and not necessarily aligned politically with most farmers, I found that kind of confusing, just like most people do. Oh, I should mention, in 2024, I was running as a Democrat, right? So I was talking with farmers and I was talking about politics with people. Everybody knew Trump was going to start a trade war because he ran on that. He campaigned on that and he already did it once. Everybody knew he was going to do this. Now, like most people, I thought this is insane. How are farmers whose job depends on exports going to support a guy who is promising to destroy their business? I got an opportunity to sit down with the farm lobbyist, and credit to him, he did actually sit down with me because I was running as a Democrat. A lot of farm spokespeople just wouldn't. And I asked him point blank, I said, hey, we all know this is going to happen. We all know this is his plan to start a trade war that is going to hurt your businesses just like it did last time. We all know this, right? And he said, yep, yeah, we know. And I said, then explain to me why we're supporting this guy. Make it make sense to me. I said, explain it to me like I'm five, because I am a Democrat, so you'll have no trouble speaking to me like I'm five. So let's start with that. And he said, listen, we understand there's some risks with being part of the Trump coalition. We understand there's some risks to us. But we also understand that there are going to be some benefits. And he wouldn't elaborate beyond that. But let's unpack this just a minute. What kind of benefits could that have meant, right? What kind of benefits could people have been looking forward to that might have made up for the fact that we're about to start a trade war? And everybody knew it. Well, first off, last time Trump did this, he just gave farmers a lot of free money. So I'm sure people assume that would happen again. And we'll get back to that in a second because it's Thursday, the 11th of September. That hasn't happened yet. Let's talk about what else Trump has done for farmers. He did make it easier to do slavery on farms and get away with it. And I don't even mean 13th Amendment, which is already technically legal. I mean, he made it easier to bring in H-2A workers and treat them like trash. Okay, he made it easier to do that. There were some reforms to the H-2A system in 2024 because we found that a lot of people were abusing it and enslaving workers, keeping them trapped in this country, keeping them from leaving, threatening their families to force them to work harder and not paying them enough. If that's not slavery, what is? So he did that. Trump did that for farmers. He made it easier to keep people in bondage. So that's a benefit. There was, of course, the big, beautiful bill that had lots and lots of tax breaks, which farmers are really interested in because folks don't realize this, but farmers are actually quite wealthy. The majority of small family farmers at this point in U.S. history are millionaires. Most small family farmers are millionaires. So this is a group of people, farmers, who are very, very interested in tax breaks because they have a lot of estate and a lot of property to think about tax-wise. This is something that kind of drives me nuts. As someone who came up in agriculture as a farm worker, working for farmers, people keep saying, but farmers are working class. They're voting against their working class interests. When will they wake up? Never, because they're not working class. We've had the numbers on this for decades. The USDA's had data on this for years on the internet where you could just look it up. No one's ever bothered to look. We just assumed farmers were working class because, big trucks, because those are cheap. Yeah, I don't know why people think farmers are working class. Land and tractors and trucks ain't cheap. It's not that complicated. We had a century where, the smallest, poorest family farms are getting pushed out. Well, what happens after a century of that? Who's left? It's not poor people, is it? So anyway, that's another big benefit that farmers got from Trump is big tax breaks. That big, beautiful bill also had, was it 52 billion in additional free money for farmers? But of course, that's not enough. They're expecting other bailouts to come after that. And that has not been available so far. So everybody's starting to sweat just a little bit. What else was there? Oh yeah, environmental regulations. Yeah, environmental regulations was another thing they didn't like very much. And looks like those are not happening so much anymore either. So when people tell you, as farmers, we were lied to, that is absolutely not the case. We all knew what was coming. I thought we all knew this was the bargain we were driving. So when people come up and say now, oh, we were lied to, by what, your own eyes? You didn't notice last time he did this? What do you mean you were lied to? To genuinely think you were lied to. I think at this point you had to have wanted to be lied to. And that's not being lied to anymore. That's participating in a little group LARP activity. This "we were lied to" thing is just real interesting to watch, because if you were there, you know, no, we were not lied to. We all knew this was going to happen, and people just assumed that free money would be there. Let's wrap up this free money conversation. In Trump's first term, he started trade wars that destroyed a lot of farmer sales, but he made it up to them by giving out free money. And I think people just assumed that would happen the second time around. Last time he was president, he still needed to get elected again. This time, it's his second term. So either we follow the Constitution and he can't run for president again, or we just throw all of that away. And then he doesn't really need votes so much anymore because we're not really doing the Constitution anyway. So yeah, he courted farmers in 2024 because he needed them. And now that he's in power, he doesn't need farmers anymore. He doesn't need us anymore. It's as simple as that. I mean, this is a guy who got kind of famous for stiffing his contractors. He doesn't need us anymore. And here in agriculture, I thought we all knew that story about free milk and a cow. And he's got the milk. You don't need to buy the cow. If you don't look out, sometimes you get milked. As far as being rescued from this, my opinion is, I grew up in a pretty conservative household, and, I don't hold with everything I was raised with, but we talked a lot about letting people have the dignity of their choice. People are grown-ups. They should understand the choices that they're making with all the information available to us. And especially grown adults with a good amount of wealth, you'd assume that with that comes some insight into how to build your business. And if it doesn't, is that the taxpayer's problem to solve? Or is it an opportunity for new people with skills and maybe some more insight to get involved? I think that's a question we should be asking. I think a lot of us in agriculture got really used to the idea that we are irreplaceable. And I think we are now seeing that that is not true. We could have thought about it and realized it wasn't true, but now the world is forcibly showing us it's not true. China can get all the soybeans it needs from Brazil. And, if you weren't growing food for the American market, then what do Americans need to bail you out for? These are questions I think we should ask. It would be very healthy for the farm sector to ask itself some questions like this, but we didn't. And this is, when you rush blindly into things, this is how it can end for you. Not well. So, I really do believe in letting adults have the dignity of their choice. And, I wish it hadn't come to this. In fact, I spent quite a bit of time and energy trying to keep it from coming to this. But this is where we are now, and this is where we are now. I hope this is helpful for folks who are trying to understand what's going on. This is what's going on. Make good choices out there, everybody. Have a good one.